c'est pour eux et pour vous trois. D'accord. Non, attends.
Bien, bonjour, bienvenue sur Équipe Auto, nous sommes samedi.
Good morning, welcome to Équipe Auto. This is Saturday, last day of this show for your visit today. A few key data. You need to know that you have 605 exhibitors, and so you will not be able to meet with all of them, but do what you can. They're happy to welcome you. You have a few villages which are key animation points. You have one for bodywork and paint just next to it. If you're interested in these activities, you have a tire village which is celebrating the 130th anniversary of the tire, invented in 1888. We have a village dedicated to reuse and remanufacturing, which is the activity of today and tomorrow. And then a village that we at Équipe Auto know well, that is the world of used cars, a village dedicated to car washing, and an entity which has brought together startups. So don't hesitate to visit this Hall 6. Then you have this conference area, which has been very, very much attractive. We've dealt with subjects like sustainable development, innovation, technology, and training, which will take place later this morning. I give the floor now to Aurélien Fleurot. You are Aurélien Fleurot, you are in fact the producer of a TV channel called Mobility TV. You're a journalist at Europe 1. Today you're going to talk about electric vehicle maintenance, looking at the battery. Thank you, Emmanuel. Can you give your microphone to my guest? Thank you, and welcome. I'm happy to have you here for this conference inaugurating the morning. So I'm going to sit like you. We're going to talk about maintenance, diagnosis of the batteries with three guests that I'm going to introduce immediately. I have Alexis MARCADET. Hello, Alexis, co-founder of REVOLTE, a garage which is specialized in electric vehicles, and we'll have a more detailed introduction after. We have Guillaume, the co-founder of MOBA. Your day-to-day work is battery certification. We're going to understand that quickly. And Sébastien BILLARD from DAF Conseil. Thank you to the three of you for being here for this subject. Now, Alexis MARCADET, how do you present REVOLTE, your project? Our project, yes, because I'm one of the co-founders. REVOLTE is the pioneer of independent electric repairs in France. We launched the activity during the lockdown. We wanted electric cars to last longer. We came to realize that there were very few people interested in vehicles that were out of the warranty period. So we started in Nantes with a site, and you know, the batteries represent 1/3 of our repairs. We've opened a small workshop in the Paris area, and we're beginning to train garage operators to the whole issue of battery repair. We've been contacted a great deal on the subject. Yes, that's going to be the heart of this subject, the evolution in terms of training needs. With you, in fact, Guillaume, with the creation of MOBA, there is an evolution with regards to batteries. Used to be called La Belle Batterie. Well, with MOBA, we are the European leader with regards to the diagnosis and certification of batteries for used electric cars. This is to be able to reassure the buyers of second-hand electric vehicles on the condition of the batteries. So we have a solution to diagnose just any battery in less than 30 minutes, and this for any car, any battery. We've existed for 4 years. We'll talk about that in greater detail. So let's conclude this first roundtable with DAF Conseil, Sébastien. For those who don't know DAF Conseil, can you say a few words about this in your role as trainer? DAF Conseil is diagnostics, assistance, and training in French. We are specialized in the training and technical assistance to multi-brand workshops. There's a great demand today with regards to the electric and hybrid vehicles today, so we have various training programs. We have everything necessary. So, for example, the electric certification working on cars which are under tension and those which are not. So that we understand what we're talking about here, you work on the battery state of health. When we talk about SOH, I always wonder what people are referring to. Well, in English, it means state of health. So what do we need to know about battery diagnostics? Well, so as not to go too much into details, here the state of health, it allows you to know the rate of deterioration of the battery. When the battery leaves the plant, it is at 100% and maximum capacity. With the years, the battery is obviously going to age and it loses its storage capacity. You're going to lose between 2 to 3% of SOH per year, depending on the usage. So the state of health is really the indicator you have to master when we talk about electric vehicles. So, Alexis, this is the entry into the first diagnosis for the electric vehicles. Yes, it's a necessary precondition with regards to the legal aspects and the manufacturers. Today, there's no real standard. The limits are 3 millivolts to understand where you are when you buy a used electric car. We've had a lot of exchanges with customers, and you need to know that in some cars you cannot calculate the SOH. We've seen in some cars, with the SOH of 45%, which should have been scrapped years ago, and others which have a higher SOH but are no longer working. So it's an important element when we need to go further. This is why there's a need for a kind of standard to have some kind of logic, when you're working with these vehicles. Yes, it cannot simply be a question of different vehicle generations, At this point, you need to know that there are really major differences. It's as if you were in the real estate sector, and it's as if you were giving the owner of the apartment to determine the energy class of the apartment. It would not be a good thing. I mean, it wouldn't be biased. It would be biased. This is why we are accompanying these various evolutions, which will enable us to be coherent. Well, it's clear that things are necessary. You always need a certain amount of time. Things have been moving, but it takes time. There's a need to harmonize all this. What about the future standard, Guillaume? What are you doing with MOBA? Does MOBA work to accompany the harmonization here? Yes, we're not there yet, The whole European issue of calculating the battery state of health is a major subject, but far from decided. As we said, we have to work with the car manufacturers, because to calculate the state of health, well, this indicator has limits, but at the first level, it's the first subject that we need to come to an agreement on, understand what we mean, and this is very important here. It's the first thing to understand and adopt for the electric vehicle. So the idea, Alexis, would it mean to try to have some kind of health certificate on the battery? In certain cases, this would not be enough, the SOH. So we do a number of tests which take several days. We send a tool to the customer by driving and charging the vehicle. He is going to be able to see the differences in millivolts regarding the battery voltage. And you know, when we have an intervention on the battery, when somebody wants to sell a car, but he thinks that maybe there are problems, you know, or maybe there's a problem of wondering whether or not there'll be some kind of defect. Here there is an important step forward this year, the first European standard on the diagnosis and certification of batteries. It's an industrial standard. It's called CARA. And CARA, which is an association which groups together the players in the vehicle remarketing sector, and we think that a battery certification, etc., has to be done in a certain way. So it proves that the market, the industry, wants to create a reference that can be used. Yes, now to advance and to evolve, you need that training. So, Sébastien BILLARD, can you say a few words about this? Because I'm sure you are really solicited by the garage operators. So what happens when you want to accompany this evolution and this transfer to the electric? Yes, that's one of the first questions we get when people come to training. They say, well, yes, the battery is their initial problem. You know, my customer wants to buy a car, but the problem is the battery. He wants to know more about that. So initially, they come to us for information reasons. They want knowledge about how all this works. And then, obviously, we talk about my colleagues here, MOBA and REVOLTE, and there's a link. It's not just training. Everything is linked here. And underlying this, you have those who are already acting. For example, the body shops, which are already working on electric cars and have been working on them for several years. And you have the workshop operators who want to have information. They need this knowledge. They need this information regarding everything covering an electric car. Know who are the partners they can work with. So there's the desire to diversify, anticipate the needs for diagnosis, the working on vehicles with the that are connected, that are electric, working with the electricity. You know that we, first of all, have a electric certification on different levels. The first of these can be to work to work live on live vehicles, because the vehicles have the electricity working. And you know that we are accredited with regards to this. You have a committee, you have to have an accreditation. There are all kinds of audits that have to be done. There are 3-day training sessions. And how do I change a module, a battery cell, etc. All of these connections, etc., how the battery works. And you have, in fact, all of the, all you have in these electric cars, the hybrid cars, the motors, the charging units, etc. There's a real lack of information. You know, the garage operator knows what kind of voltage, etc., what the battery can withstand, etc. So they have these questions, and there has to be, the information here. Alexis, what have you implemented at REVOLTE? Well, first of all, we need to ensure that people understand the battery is a very specific organ. It involves a lot of investment as well. So, you know, there are relay points. Some small garage operators will not do this work, you know, and not everyone is going to work on the batteries. You know, we have a lot of contacts from garage operators asking us how to do this. The homologation, the accreditation is one step. You know, for example, if I give you the keys to a restaurant, you know, you can go to the kitchen, but that doesn't mean you can do the work. And so, we have people who say, well, we're going to start with you, and then I'm going to open a section to work on batteries. But, in 3 days, we're not going to be able to give people all of the necessary skills and expertise to work on batteries. That's going to take years. On top of that, you have different batteries, you have different battery cell standards. So, the manufacturers have a tendency to create alliances. They decide to open things, close things, and there are various parts, of course. Before giving the floor to Guillaume, can you tell us what you have done with REVOLTE, the lab? Can you tell us what you've been doing? We have a closed area with doors can be closed during the intervention. It's a bit like an operating room. You have the patient, which is the battery. The people in that lab have to be accredited. During the intervention, you only have the people who are accredited to work under live conditions on the battery with the necessary protective equipment. This is why I think of a surgical ward when I speak of working on the battery. With ICE engines, you don't have that level of concentration as with batteries. Can these types of operating labs be adapted to existing workshops? Can we reproduce them anywhere? Well, today, with the exception of REVOLTE, we have a dealer which has 1 out of 4 which will have that lab where the batteries are worked on. Very often, today the transportation of lithium batteries is complicated. So here you have a closed space, these labs, with accredited staff who can work on these batteries. I think that the investment level and the number of batteries to repair initially will lead this to only be done by certain professionals. Guillaume, with MOBA, here you have a special aspect involved here. Now, this first entry level, which is the diagnosis of batteries, we are a software company. We don't do what Alexis is doing with regards to the hardware. We have a tool called MOBA Certified Pro, which is for professionals and industrials, which allows you to do the first operation, which is the battery diagnosis in a rapid industrial way. We have a tool, we have a OBD diagnostic tool, which for the same user for any vehicle in the market can recover all of the data from the battery management system to understand and interpret the battery level. So that's the first step, this diagnosis. And what we want to do is align ourselves to the manufacturers with regards to warranty, and then we want to go further in the diagnostic process to see whether the battery is repairable, has to be replaced, or can be reprogrammed. And this so as to enable players like REVOLTE and others who will have to adapt their work, help them to understand what can be done to revalorize, recondition a battery. Now, when we talk about the reconditioning of batteries, we said earlier that each battery is different. So what do you have to have in mind when you look at a battery of a Tesla, which is 18 months old, and that of a Nissan Leaf, which is 12, 13 years old? Is the approach the same? How do you differentiate yourself? How do you do the correct diagnostic work? Well, this is quite complex, depending on the electric vehicle, the battery architecture, the pack architecture, on the basis of the usage of the car, the history of usage. You have all kinds of points in the battery. What's important with the diagnosis is to understand what has happened to the battery and to find a solution within a logic aimed at determining whether you repair or replace it. In the market, before buying a used car, it's important you verify the state of health of the battery. That's essential for those people who want to shift to an electric car, but who are going to start with a used electric car, and if they need, 20, there's a difference if you need 25 kilometers of range or 250 kilometers of range, and this is something that's very important when you buy the car. So this is why you also need to have the best training possible to these batteries. This is maybe work in progress, given that you maybe don't have two batteries that are alike. Well, there's that, but you also have to adapt to the multi-brand garages. Today you can have more access to information. There are certain diagnostic tools which will enable you to understand who you're communicating with, how you communicate, the protocols in place. And in training, you can see all of these different elements, and you can see how you work, how you communicate, how you diagnose. Can you verify module, a cell, look at the voltage values, and then interpret the information, because you need to know what all of this corresponds to. So this is part of what we have in our training modules on electric batteries. So you have all of this information. We're going to ask our trainees to come with our diagnostic tools so that you can see what you can do with our diagnostic tools. All of this, of course, to then do a bit of practice as well, But it's clear that you cannot immediately start maintaining electric vehicles, servicing them, and taking the batteries out. As I was saying earlier, we have more and more demand regarding big body shops who want to intervene on the batteries, who understand there's got to be an investment made. But already when you invest in body shop equipment and tools, that is quite expensive. So we have a lot of requests from the car body shop network for this training. We have a training program. You start with a hybrid, then electric. We are going to do the various accreditations as well to enable people to work on the vehicles. And then, obviously, we are going to enable people to then look at the batteries. This means the garages feel better supported, accompanied. So sometimes it's clear that they need to develop that expertise, so they need training. People should not think that there's going to be a shortage of income arising from the electric vehicles. That's wrong. With regards to that, Alexis, MARCADET, do you have the REVOLTE Academy you started setting up? Yes, we had a promotion that just graduated yesterday, some 10 people who want to start working on electric cars. Well, always with that comparison of the operating room and surgeons, you know that a battery, in fact, is going to take about 20 hours to open and close the battery pack. The battery pack for Tesla weighs 500 kilos, and if you want to open it and close it, it's going to take you 20 hours. And if you open it and close it and realize there's nothing to be done, that's a waste of time. No, So the more data we have, the more catalog expertise, the more level 2 expertise, where we say that here you don't want to do anything, the better it'll be. You know, you have the hybrid batteries, for example, when you buy it reconditioned as proposed by certain manufacturers, you have less risk. Even from the logistics point of view, it's a small battery, not a lot of voltage. So we at the REVOLTE Academy, like Sébastien was saying, at the end, we cannot say that they will be able to open the battery pack, but they will know how to dialogue with the experts, speak the same language, understand the experts' language, and they will know which faults they can work on, which breakdowns they can work on little by little in advance. Guillaume, did you want to add something? I think that the comparison with the medical world is very appropriate for the battery. You know, we talk about cells, we talk about transplant of cells, you know. So, you know, I think the comparison with the medical world is a very appropriate one. Well, we know that this is going to take time, but can you get information on a real-time basis? Can you get a rapid diagnosis for this type of batteries? Is the first step rapid, the diagnosis? Well, remember, we have multi-brand tools, so it's not simple. But part of our job consists in finding the right software tools to obtain the good information. And about, you know, when we look at what existed 20 years ago, well, you didn't have the same tools, you didn't have the same skills or expertise for reading the DIAG information. Now we can have a condensed amount of information, enabling you to make a decision. Sébastien BILLARD, you spoke a bit about the hybrid. Is this an entry point for some when approaching the electric battery? Or is it just a question of answering the need? There are a lot of hybrids in the market, so you need to know how to manage them. You have to know how to manage them, and you have to know how to intervene on a vehicle. You have to put yourself in the shoes of a garage operator who's used to pure mechanics, and when he opens the bonnet and he sees these big orange cables, etc. Well, the idea is you want to reassure them that it's not a problem. You know, you have an electric motor, and together we'll look at how this works. Today, we have to look at the alternator starters on hybrids, for example. You know, we have to do all kinds of things with these, but people in the mechanic shops need to know how to start the work here. Now, then the question of the hybrid versus the electric versus the hydrogen, I'm not going to enter that discussion. Everybody needs to look at the problem and determine what their interest is. Now, the workshops have to adapt. Some are going to work on the hybrid, some on ICEs, and some on full electric. Whatever, we have to offer a solution and accompany them. I guess that, you know, what's interesting for the operators is that you need to be able to have a pack. You know, there are a lot of experts in the room, and you know that an ICE car is 1,000 parts, an electric is 400 parts, and a hybrid is 1,400 parts. So there are things to work on. Yeah, so there's a real need.
Alors voilà, on s'est dit qu'on allait.
Well, I know that we're not going to settle the issue regarding the European standards, but in which direction we try to go in terms of the durability, I mean the sustainability. I mean, well, for example, to consider the battery could be recycled, reused, and readapted into different types of vehicles. Couldn't that be the long-term, let's say, the target? Yes, that's the target. You know, when you say that, in fact, we had an event and we had, in fact, a Rosalie car from Citroën and other cars that, cars that are 80 years of age and they can be repaired. So we would like to be able to do the same with the electric vehicles, batteries. Are manufactured in various countries in Asia, and in any case, it's basically the same type of components. So the main target is, first of all, to come up with standards and then to overcome the legal obstacles. In certain cases, people hesitate to have an upgrade of their battery made in another country. So, if in fact a new battery is very expensive, in order to just to increase the range by a few ten thousands of kilometers, then that's not really convincing. So it is important to come up with the batteries, the standards, and also the data and the hardware. All of that is needed, and that's the reason why alliances are being developed, and we are working with partners on how far we can go. I mean, if we don't, if the supplier doesn't provide the spare parts, then of course we might as well open the battery, but we won't be able to repair the pack. So we need to have the relevant data also. Well, to that extent, I would say that with retrofit, things have started changing, and in particular through Mobilians. So mobile alliance. So it helps, in fact, to change the technical characteristics of a vehicle during the lifetime of that vehicle. And I think the upgrading of batteries will certainly be one of the major stakes. If I have a Renault Zoe, and you know that there are 3 different categories of batteries, and technically it is possible to use one battery, let's say 50 in terms of voltage, into a car which is meant, in fact, to be powered by a battery with 20 or 22 voltage. So it's a matter of charging time and also adjustment. So the vehicle might be heavier, but so that you need not necessarily buy a new vehicle, and we need to really review the legal framework. Retrofitting helped to move in the right direction. An electric vehicle after 50,000 kilometers is, in fact, more virtuous, in fact, compared to the IEC vehicles. So, of course, if we were able to make very long-lasting batteries, then of course it will help, in fact, decarbonize the automotive industry. So, 200,000 kilometers, that's something that can be envisaged for an electric vehicle. Well, in the US, there are models with 1.4, 1.6 million kilometers, but of course the engines have changed in the meantime, and but Tesla had decided to keep some of the parts, and you could change the battery 6 times and continue to use your car. So unfortunately in France we are just in the first generations of electric vehicles. Well, I think it is also a matter of pedagogy to teach garages how to change or to repair the batteries, how to cope with the loading or the charging process in order to keep the battery usable for as long as possible. So this, is it being a part of your training? Yes, that's fully part of our training courses. training is something that is developing fast. Will it be really good training or not? People tend to say, well, I have read on Facebook that this or that. So, I mean, different types of training with different levels. It's important to really be hands-on when you talk about, or when you train people. And our job is precisely to accompany people so that they, I mean the garages, will then inform their customers, so telling them, well, be careful with the battery because this and that. And while of course we are not talking only to the garages, we are developing other types of training courses, and particularly from the commercial point of view. We need to accompany the customer who is willing to buy an electric vehicle to teach them, I mean, how to charge the battery and I mean, and do so properly. Well, that's the proper transition when you refer to charging. And I'm going to call on Frédéric Genet to conclude this conference. Well, the idea was for you to conclude this conference with the issue of recharging. You have the Advenir program, and which actually refers to the stakes involved, in particular when it comes to charging the battery. Well, we are in partnership with the state, and let's say the investment is of 30 million euros in order, as was said before, in particular in terms of maintenance, to have recharge outlets. And last year, end of September, there were less than 70,000 recharge outlets open to the public at large. And well, today we have about 115,000. So I think that automotive professionals are those who are in the best possible position to, in fact, establish those outlets. So there could be outlets for the customers and for the workers. So that is, in fact, that could be cost something like 3,000 euros. When it is an outlet open to the public at large, then it could be an investment up to 15,000 euros. Much depends on the voltage and of the outlet, the recharge outlet. Now again, this concludes not only the box itself, but also all the different connections. An outlet of 140 kilowatts is comparatively costly. There could be hidden costs. Much depends on where the high voltage line is located, and Alexis seems to agree. Yes, and what about the recharge speed? What are extremely high speed, or what are the actual needs expressed by professionals? Well, compared. If you consider, recharging for the clients and for the workers in a given company, so that is, for example, if, for example, you have a MOT performed, it would be important for the operator to give back the car fully charged. And for the publicly available outlets, well, what they are looking for is 100 kilowatt hour as opposed to the 140 kilowatt hour per in terms of the voltage. And what about the coverage? I assume that you are trying to have a large coverage, geographical coverage as possible. People need to know that the outlets are easy to find, and that they can have the diagnosis performed and the charging also done. So the objective is to have up to 8,000 recharge outlets. And then, geographically speaking, we would like to have it distributed as diversely as possible. The idea is that it should be accessible to everybody. With mobile alliance, and we are, as you know, we are present here today. We shall stay till Monday and to talk about all of these issues in more details. But quite honestly, well, this scheme I have been talking about is very much welcomed by the automotive sector. So thank you for this. Alexis, what about your needs, the training needs, the diagnostics, sustainability? So here again, I assume that a recharge outlet or more than just one is needed for professionals. Yes, this sounds logical. Well, we are currently trying to create the toolbox. So if I have the battery, if I have to remove it, where should I put it? What about the charging? Well, and then the voltage. Well, and we tend to use the 220 voltage, and you can also decide to have the voltage, the charging, taking place slowly, for example, at home during, at night at home. So, of course, while the batteries that were available in 2011 are not the same as those we currently have. So the very fast charging process is needed for specific usage cases. So thank you all. So there are very important stakes, and we shall continue to monitor all of that and enjoy your show. Thank you.
Et j'en profite pour vous dire que dans 15 minutes...
Well, I'd like to add that within 15 minutes we shall continue with the next conference dedicated to training. So need to train people in workshops and the future professionals. So stay if you're interested by those subjects. Thank you.